Hello, dear viewers. On their very first wedding night, the young husband had already itemized the contents of the envelopes. This was the initial payment for an apartment for his mother. Today's story is about how our heroine had to defend her own home against her husband and his resourceful relatives for a lifetime of happiness. The heels of my shoes dug into the asphalt like tiny chisels, chipping away at the last remnants of my patience. The wedding had concluded 40 minutes ago, yet the clinking of glasses and the cries of "Gorko" seemed to linger in my ears, transforming into an irritating drone. Standing in the entryway, I slipped off one shoe and exhaled. The autumn air carried the scent of decaying leaves and gasoline. A fragrance of freedom, were it not for the man frantically unloading flowers from a taxi. Vadim, my husband. The word still felt foreign, like new shoes that fit but pinch somewhere. "Kristen, what are you doing, frozen?" he asked, waving a hand while clutching an armful of roses that resembled a bathhouse whisk. "Help me out, there are still bags of food. Mom said not to leave anything behind at the restaurant." Mom said. This phrase had been the soundtrack to our relationship for the past 6 months. Initially, it sounded like concern, then advice, and today, on our wedding day, it had become an alarm bell. I wordlessly hoisted a heavy bag filled with containers of Olivier salad, aspic, and slices of cake. We hauled this gastronomic burden into my apartment like ants. The apartment was mine. A 2-room dwelling in an older building, with high ceilings and creaky parquet flooring, purchased on the secondary market with a mortgage. I had renovated it, pouring in everything I had earned as an interior designer over the past 3 years. Vadim had moved in a couple of months prior, with a single suitcase and a gaming console. Phew! He dumped the flowers directly onto the console in the hallway. Petals cascaded onto the clean floor. "Listen, Chris, everything went wonderfully, right? Uncle Tolia had a bit too much, but that's tradition." He was animated, his eyes gleaming, not with the passion of a newlywed, but with the gleam of someone who had just struck it rich. "It went fine," I replied dryly, walking into the kitchen and placing the flowers on the table. The white dress, which had cost me 2 months' salary, now felt like a heavy spacesuit. I longed to shed it. "Fine," Vadim followed, unbuttoning his shirt collar. "Yeah, everything was great. By the way, did you see the envelope from your parents? Your father really made an impression. I didn't expect that." I tensed. My father, a stern construction engineer from the north, disliked public displays. He had simply approached us at the end of the evening, shaken Vadim's hand with such force that he winced, and handed me an envelope. "For the foundation, daughter," he had said. I knew that it contained the culmination of 5 years of his rotational work, a sum sufficient to pay off my mortgage early. Yes, I saw it. I opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of mineral water. "The last thing I want right now is to discuss money. Vadim, let's go to bed." "What do you mean bed?" he chuckled, nervously rubbing his hands. "It's our wedding night, all that." "But first, we need to handle something before the banks close," he winked. "Just kidding, the apps work around the clock." A premonition struck me. I turned around. Vadim was leaning against the doorframe, and there was something proprietorial, far too proprietorial, in his posture. "What issue?" he asked. He pulled the envelope from his inner jacket pocket. I hadn't even noticed him pilfer it from my purse. "Well, look," he began, speaking rapidly, chewing his words like a failing student at an exam. "It's a substantial sum. It's foolish to just hold on to it. Inflation will eat it away." Mom found an incredible option. Luzerne Residential Complex. The second phase is just starting sales. If we invest now, the price will increase by 30% in a year. "Vadim, I placed the bottle on the table. The sound of glass hitting wood was loud. What does Luzerne have to do with anything? We live here, in my apartment. We don't need a construction site in a muddy field on the other side of town. Well, we don't, he agreed easily, walking closer. But Mom does. The world tilted for a second. What? She doesn't have a decent apartment of her own. You know how it is, he said, as if explaining to a child why the sky is blue. She lives in that Khrushchev-era building. Pipes are leaking, neighbors are drunks. She raised us, educated us. You and I are young. We have everything. And this is an investment. We'll register it in Mom's name, and in about 10 years, this apartment will be mine. Or the children's. I looked at him and saw a stranger. Where was the guy who walked with me along the embankment, discussing plans for a trip to Altai? Where was the one who claimed he wanted to build a house with his own hands? He had vanished. All that remained was a mid-level manager, a puppet whose strings were being pulled from somewhere in the vicinity of a Khrushchev-era building with leaking pipes. Give me the envelope, I said softly, extending my hand. Vadim stepped back, clutching the envelope to his chest. Chris, what are you doing? Don't start this. This is for the family, the joint budget. We're husband and wife now. Everything is shared. This is a gift from my parents. I enunciated each word deliberately. They toiled in the north, not so your healthy, able-bodied mother could move into business class. Don't you dare talk about Mom like that. His face suddenly flushed red. She's a saint. She gave her all. And your bourgeois? That money is nothing to them. Bourgeois. My father, whose fingers were gnarled with arthritis from the cold, and my mother, who scrimped on cosmetics to send me an extra coin. Vadim, give me the envelope or I'll call. I faltered. Who would I call? The police? On my husband? On our wedding night? You won't call anyone, he grinned wryly. You're my wife, and you have to obey. By the way, Mom is arriving soon. You'll make the transfer for her. She arranged it with the manager. He'll book the apartment tonight through connections. What, am I supposed to suffocate from indignation at midnight? Well, why delay before the prices go up? At that moment, the intercom rang, a sharp, unpleasant sound that sliced through the apartment's silence like a knife through a tin can. Vadim beamed. Oh, speak of the devil. I'll get it. He rushed to the hallway. I heard the click of a button, the sound of the magnetic door opening downstairs. Mom, the elevator is broken. Come up on foot, I'll meet you. He shouted into the receiver and turned to me, beaming triumphantly. He carelessly tossed the envelope onto the console in the hallway, intending to put on slippers and head to the stairwell to meet his dear mother. So, you seriously decided that my parents' wedding gifts are the down payment for your mother's apartment? My voice trembled with fury, but he was no longer listening. Calm down, hysteric, he tossed over his shoulder, opening the front door. We'll sort everything out now. You'll thank me later. He stepped out into the stairwell, leaving the door ajar. I could hear him leaning over the railing. Mom, come on, it's not far. I froze, staring at the empty doorway. I had exactly as much time as it would take a 60-year-old stout woman to ascend to the 3rd floor in a Stalin-era building with high landings. 2 minutes, 3 at most, if she stopped to catch her breath. My brain, which had been swimming in a fog of indignation, suddenly became clear and cold as ice. I looked at the envelope lying on the console, and indeed, there was a check for $3 million inside. But more importantly, access to my bank accounts was on my phone. My father had transferred the money to my account that morning, and the envelope contained just a beautiful card with a check for show for the guests. He knew I had the money on my card, and now they were coming with his mother to extort the transfer from me. I dashed into the bedroom. My old cat, Belyash, sat on the bed, watching me with his yellow eyes. "Sorry, Belyash, it's going to be noisy," I whispered. First, I grabbed my phone. The banking app opened instantly via Face ID. Transfers. Sum of 3 million rubles. Recipient, mortgage, early repayment. My finger hovered over the confirm button. If I did this, the money would be gone. The apartment would be entirely mine, free of bank encumbrances. No Lazerny would shine. I pressed it. Operation in progress. A green check mark. The loan was fully paid off. My heart pounded in my throat. But that wasn't all. I knew Alla Vitalievna. She wouldn't just walk away. She would yell, demand I take out a new loan. I ran into the hallway. Vadim was still on the stairs, encouraging his mother. "Come on, Mom, just one more flight." I quietly latched the front door from the inside, the one that couldn't be opened from the outside with a key, the deadbolt. The click was quiet, metallic, and very final. Phew! Heavy breathing could be heard from outside the door. "Vadinka, why do you live so high up?" "The elevator needs fixing. Come in, Mom, come in." Vadim's voice grew closer. "Kristinka is probably making tea already." The doorknob jiggled. The door didn't budge. Again, harder. "Hey!" Vadim shoulder-checked the door. "Chris, why did you lock yourself in?" I stood on the other side, my back pressed against the cold metal. In my hands, I clutched my phone, on the screen of which the account balance glowed. 12,000 rubles. "Christina," my husband's voice became whiny. "Open up, Mom's here." "I hear you," I replied loudly. My voice sounded surprisingly calm. "Hello, Alla Vitalievna. I'm sorry, but tea is canceled." "Kristinochka." My mother-in-law's voice was as sweet as poisoned candy. "Why are you being shy in there? We're family. Open up quickly, darling." "Vadim," I said, looking through the peephole. His image was distorted by the lens, resembling an angry gnome. "There's no money." "What do you mean, no money?" He froze. "Where did you put it? Where did you hide it? Open up right now, or it will be worse." "I paid off my mortgage, completely, just now." Silence hung heavy behind the door. It was so dense it seemed to press on my eardrums. All that could be heard was Alla Vitalievna's whistling breath. "What have you done?" Vadim whispered. "I settled the debt for my apartment with my parents' gift, just as they wanted." You, the mother-in-law suddenly shrieked, her voice cracking into a falsetto. "Vadim, break down the door. She stole our money. It's the family budget. Break it down, I said." Blows rained down on the door. Vadim, apparently, started kicking the panel. "Open up, all. Do you understand what you've done?" "Vadim," I shouted over the din, "if you don't stop right now, I'll call the police. And believe me, they'll come quickly. My neighbor upstairs is a colonel's wife. She's probably already peeking through her peephole." The blows ceased. "Christina," Vadim began, trying to regain his master of the house tone, but his voice trembled. "You don't understand. You've made a mistake. Undo it. Cancel the transfer, call the bank, say you made a mistake. We'll forgive you everything. Really, Mom? Forgive her, Alla Vitalyevna hissed. If she opens up right now and fixes it, and doesn't fix it, I'll drag her through the courts. A confidence trickster infiltrated the family. I stepped away from the door and went to the kitchen. My legs felt a little wobbly, but my head was clear. I grabbed a large black trash bag, returned to the hallway, and opened the closet. Vadim's jacket, jeans, 2 shirts, his silly cap. Everything flew into the bag. I worked methodically, like a robot vacuum cleaner. Christina, why are you so quiet? I returned to the door. Vadim, I'm about to put your things outside. You can keep the apartment keys as a souvenir. I'm changing the locks tomorrow. You can't do that. We're married. This is jointly acquired property. I live here. The apartment was purchased before the marriage. You are nobody here. And for attempted extortion and threats, I can file a report. Mom, Vadim sounded close to tears. Say something. Listen, you bossy woman, Alla Vitalyevna barked. Do you think you're so smart? We'll crush you into powder. I'll talk to your employer. They'll ruin your work record. You won't find a job in this city. I smirked. Alla Vitalyevna worked as a janitor in a dormitory at a pedagogical institute. Her connections were as vast as her knowledge of tact. Alla Vitalyevna, I said, stepping right up to the door. Your car is parked on the lawn. I've photographed the license plates. The traffic police have already received an application through the app. A 5,000 ruble fine. And if you continue to shout, I'll go out and deflate your tires personally. A loud sigh came from behind the door. Let's go, Vadim suddenly said sharply. Mom, hear me? Let's go. She's sick. Dad's the same kind of nut. I told you not to get involved with them. I heard receding footsteps. Alla Vitalyevna's shuffling and Vadim's hurried stomping. They were descending, continuing to bicker. The voices faded. I went to the kitchen and poured myself some of that mineral water. My hands weren't shaking. On the contrary, I felt a strange surge of energy, as if I had shed a backpack full of stones that I had been carrying for 6 months. I took out my phone, a message from my dad. Daughter, everything is fine. Received notification of mortgage payment. You're doing great. Proud of you. Good night. I smiled. My dad had received notifications too. He knew. He knew everything and apparently was waiting for me to make the decision myself. It was a test of adulthood, which I had passed. My gaze fell on the wedding cake in its box, a huge 3-tiered creation with marzipan swans. I broke off the head of one swan and popped it into my mouth. Sweet. Suddenly, an idea struck me. I had packed the bag, but hadn't given it to them. I went to the window. The red Nissan was still parked below, its hazard lights flashing. Vadim was running around it, waving his hands. Alla Vitalyevna sat in the passenger seat, monumental, like a statue of the Commendatore. I opened the window. The 3rd floor, not that high. Vadim, I shouted. He tilted his head back. His face was contorted with a mixture of hope and malice. Have you changed your mind? Catch! The black bag with his belongings flew out the window, described a beautiful arc, and landed precisely in a puddle next to the car. Splashes of muddy water flew onto the polished side of the Nissan. You're crazy, he yelled. I'll take his laptop. No, I feel sorry for the laptop. It's probably his work. I'm not Varfur. I'll leave the laptop. He can pick it up via courier. I closed the window. The street noise disappeared. Only the silence of my apartment remained. Mine entirely, down to the last square centimeter. Belyash emerged from the room, stretched and meowed, demanding food. "Coming, my good boy," I said. "We'll have dinner now, and there are leftovers from the celebratory feast." Vadim didn't like her, and we'll have more. The divorce proceedings promised to be swift. There was essentially nothing to divide. No children, no jointly acquired property. But Vadim tried to play war. He sent me a pre-litigation claim, demanding half the sum gifted at the wedding, claiming it was a joint gift. I showed the document to Uncle Misha, my dad's brother, a lawyer. Uncle Misha, laughing, explained that gifts are designated for a specific purpose, and Dad had written in the payment memo, "Gift to daughter Christina." It's not divisible. Vadim called a couple of times. First he threatened, then he cried, then he threatened again. I blocked him everywhere. Alla Vitalyevna tried to cause a scene at my workplace, but she didn't account for one thing. My studio is located in a secure business center with an access system. Security escorted her out after she tried to force her way through the turnstile, screaming, "Give me back my money!" The surveillance camera footage became a hit in our office chat. But the most interesting thing happened today. I left the house, heading to the store. That very red Nissan was parked by the entrance. I tensed. My hand instinctively reached for the pepper spray I had bought immediately after that incident. The window rolled down, and Alla Vitalyevna was behind the wheel. She looked older and somewhat deflated. Her battle makeup had run. Her hairstyle was disheveled. "Christina," she called. Her voice was hoarse, devoid of its former metallic edge. I stopped, not getting too close. "Do you need my autograph for the prosecutor? Or another bag of things?" Vadim forgot his dinosaur socks. "Vadim has started drinking," she suddenly said. "He sits at home, plays computer games, doesn't go to work. You should talk to him. Maybe you'll make up. We all have our moments. We got heated. Your apartment is nice, big. You'll have plenty of space for the two of you, and I could move in with you, help around the house." I looked at her and couldn't believe my ears. This woman was impenetrable. Even after what happened, she was trying to pull off her plan. I could move in with you. So, the Lazerny scheme failed. Then let's try the Stalin-era takeover scheme. "Alla Vitalyevna," I smiled, and it was the most genuine smile in days. "You know, I really got heated." She perked up. Hope flashed in her eyes, the hope of a predator. "See, I told Vadim you were a smart girl." "Yes, I got heated that I didn't let your tires down then. All the best." I turned and walked away. I could feel her gaze on my back, full of hatred, but it bounced off me like peas off a wall. I had my life, my apartment, and my cat, and they had their unfulfilled Lazerny and a 5,000 ruble parking fine. I went into the coffee shop around the corner. The barista, a familiar guy with a tattoo on his neck, smiled. "Your usual? A cappuccino?" "No," I said. "Give me a double espresso and the largest pastry. I'm celebrating today." "What kind of Independence Day?" I sat by the window, looking out at the street. The red Nissan finally drove away, emitting a cloud of bluish smoke. The city lived its life. People hurried, leaves fell. I took out my phone, opened the banking app. The mortgage section was gone. There was only a clean, calm field, my accounts. I took a sip of coffee, bitter and sweet, like true freedom. My phone vibrated in my pocket, an incoming call from an unknown number. I knew it could be Vadim, calling from a friend's phone, or his mother again, with a new SIM card. I pressed reject and blocked. No more noise, just my music. In the evening, my dad arrived. He didn't call. He just came, bringing a bag of potatoes. Homegrown, not store-bought chemicals. We sat in the kitchen, Bellyash rubbed against his legs. "Did he hurt you?" my father asked, slicing lemon. He didn't mention names, but everything was clear. "He tried, Dad, but I managed." "I see. You figured out about the apartment right away." "Almost immediately, as soon as he started singing praises about his mother." I knew that snake wasn't our type. His eyes dart around, and his handshake is limp, like a fish. "But you had to see it for yourself." "Thank you for the money, Dad. You saved me." "I gave you the fishing rod. You caught the fish yourself, and by the looks of it, you fended off a large shark." We laughed. At that moment, I realized the wedding had been a success after all. An expensive party, of course, but what a finale. This is how one decisive action can save not only your nerves, but also your future. An expensive lesson, certainly, but freedom is worth it. Wishing you well, and may your home truly always remain your fortress.